live from Penn State's campus. This is Nittany Talk. I'm Lucas Hydock, and in today's episode, we are going to discuss Donda 2 and Kanye West, debate our favorite social media platforms, and talk with social media influencer Katie Feeney. Now, let's get to talking. Welcome back to Nittany Talk. My co-hosts, Francie Ebert, Nisari Marizan, and Dylan Williams will be sharing our thoughts on Donda 2 and Kanye West. So guys, what are your thoughts on this album? We've been waiting for it for months. I know he's been teasing it for weeks now.
Yeah, well, the album's not even out. So it's a little hectic. I think we've already seen this in the past from Kanye, where he's just delayed an album so much. But I do think that if he doesn't release it today, he's going to miss out on this iconic date that everybody's been talking about, the 2/22/22.
Absolutely.
So he has to release it.
I mean, I'm not surprised that he hasn't released the album. He's pretty unreliable. But I do have to say his music is pretty nice. It's diverse and he offers a lot of variety. So I think that the album that he hopefully will get to
Release, absolutely, yeah.
hopefully it lives up to his expectations as his other albums, because I enjoyed his other albums. You know, you got Graduation, you got The Life of Pablo.
Right.
You have these albums that are full of just, like, he goes from modern to, like, he incorporates God in some of his albums.
Yeah.
It just, I don't know. I'm interested to see where he's going to take this.
I feel like Kanye is like one of the only artists who can get away with constantly releasing late on time. That's because whenever he does release, it's always great. And like you guys said, he really has that diversity where you don't really know what to expect from him. Even when he gives you like an album name, you never can really quite tell like what he's about to do and what he's about to, I guess, expose us to. I think that's really one of the greatest parts about Kanye and why he's so loved by everybody in the community.
Absolutely, that's one of the reasons I've latched on to him and his music so heavily over the years. Like, you have a record like Yeezus, say, for instance, a very experimental minimalist album. I heard it was completed within the span of just a couple days, and eventually they had Life of Pablo, which came out about 2.5 years afterwards. And that album has a much more contemporary, much more mainstream kind of production to it. And you never know where he's going to go next after that. He's in constant evolution. And in a way, that kind of reflects how he is as a person. He's constantly pushing the boundaries of what an artist is capable of, which is how we're getting this whole stem player ordeal. Kanye is officially taking over the way of distributing music. It's not like he's having his music streamed anymore. He's not having physical copies sold by any traditional labels. It is incredibly innovative.
Right, and he's even like changed how you can listen to the song. So I know that that whole idea behind the stem player is that you can pick out what part of the music you want to listen to. So you can single out the bass, you can single out the vocals. So you pretty much make your own song. It's like getting this song with a bunch of different things to listen to, and you just get to pick and choose what you want it to sound like.
Yeah. And Lucas, I love how you mentioned that point about how he brings a lot of his life to his songs and his albums. You know, like, we know that he struggled a lot with, well, he's told his fans and the audience, like the world, that he struggled a lot with like mental issues, and he brings some of that to his music, which I think that means a lot to him, and it might be why it's so engaging, you know, because he's incorporating something from his life, and, you know, to make it a little more real, you know.
That's true.
I think that's really an important aspect to look at his music.
Yeah.
And then I'm also just kind of concerned with him a little bit because, as you mentioned, he does have bipolar disorder. And with his recent tirades on Instagram, it kind of makes me concerned for him. I've heard some of the discourse around him. Some people like to, I guess, call him crazy. I feel like that's really not the best term for it. Because I feel like there's always some point that he's trying to get at, or that he's trying to get across, that he just doesn't know.
It's about communication.
Yeah, it's like he doesn't know how to really say it. So with that and his like mental health in mind, and how you're right, he does put a lot of his life into his music, and you can tell that he has a lot going on right now, whether it's like his divorce or just the other relationships with other artists like Kid Cudi. I think right now we all just kind of need to be patient with him in terms of like his mental health and really discussing him.
It's true. I mean, so much of his music is just a piece of him. I know when Kim got divorced with him, a lot of people were very excited. They thought, oh, finally, we're going to get really great, engaging, sad music. It'll be the next 808s and Heartbreaks. But that's not, we shouldn't expect heartbreak from artists to get really good music. It should come from the soul. It should come naturally. We shouldn't force it out of artists. And I think that's where really cool and engaging projects like Ye and Kid See Ghost come from. Because those are both, as you said, albums where Kanye and Kid Cudi reflect on their mental instability and come to terms with it. And in a way, it's very therapeutic in a sense.
I would agree. And, you know, back to what you were saying, that, like, right now we see Kanye, like, on Twitter, on Instagram, you know, that divorce with Kim definitely took a toll on him. You know, he just tweeted, like, keep those who you love close because they might not be there later on in life. You know, I think that we see that in his posts, in his tweets. He conveys his message. He's getting out there how he's feeling. You know, his fans eat it up. We eat it up, you know?
Yeah, and I agree. It's basically a cry for help, and I know that a lot of people have been looking at what Kanye has been doing recently, and everybody's saying, oh, Kanye's so annoying, he's so angry all the time. But the way I see it, it's like, one, it's entertainment for people who are like looking forward to that downfall for these artists, but also it's not exactly like we need to be annoyed by him. It's more of what can we do to help this man? Like he needs help and somebody needs to be around him to check what he's doing on his social media.
Yeah, it's almost like as an artist who's famous and has that much money, I mean, I would argue that a lot of famous people need filters on what they're posting, but I mean, I can't have a say on that, you know? And at his position right now, with the money that he has, he's able to do those things. So it
That's
brings
very
up that,
true.
You know.
Well, that concludes our discussion for today. Stay tuned for the next segment where Anna Adams will be interviewing social media influencer Katie Feeney.
Welcome back to Nittany Talk. I'm Anna Adams, and today I have the pleasure of speaking to social media influencer Katie Feeney. We will discuss how fame has impacted her life and advice for aspiring social media stars. So Katie, tell me a little bit about yourself. What are you studying here at Penn State as a freshman?
I'm studying broadcast journalism. I actually switched majors at the beginning of the school year, so now I'm in the communications school and I'm really excited to learn more about it.
Okay, cool. So what are your hobbies outside of social media?
So I danced my entire life, so like up until college, that was definitely took up a big chunk of my time. I did my school's dance team and then I ran track and field, so that was a big passion of mine and I still dance here and there, but now I'm really into fitness, so I would say like I spend the most time at the gym or like working out, stuff like that, when I'm not doing social media.
So why did you choose Penn State? Out of all schools, why would you choose this school?
So I was originally like 100% going to go to University of Maryland, but I think for me, I just wanted to branch out a little bit. Basically my entire high school goes to University of Maryland. Both my brothers are there, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think I just wanted to try something new. I love like that Penn State's a big football school. I love like the downtown. And yeah, I mean, overall, like the school atmosphere, it's really hard to beat, so.
Yeah. It seems that you're very into sports. Is that true?
Yeah.
Okay. I saw that you went to the Super Bowl. How was that experience?
It was insane. It was so surreal. It's like a different world there. It was definitely weird, like going to the Super Bowl and then coming back to Penn State. Love Penn State, but definitely a big change.
I could imagine. That's such a cool experience. So you were already a well-known TikToker before coming to Penn State. So how has that affected your college life and your college experience so far?
It was definitely weird because part of the reason I chose Penn State as well is just because I thought no one would know me here. And a lot of people knew me at Maryland just because it's like where I'm from. So coming here and having people start to recognize me, and as the like months have gone by, it's only like more people are recognizing me, which I'm just not used to because I don't feel in any way like famous or special. So
Right.
it's definitely like a bit of a different, I think, college experience, but I'm like definitely, I wouldn't trade it. So
That's good. So, what are your career goals after college?
yeah, so I want to go into sports broadcasting
Okay.
and hopefully work for like the NFL or ESPN. We'll see. Definitely like I aspire to be like Erin Andrews. She's like my biggest role model. So that's the goal. It's a big picture goal.
Okay, and what are your goals with social media? Do you plan on continuing it like throughout college and after college?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to continue to do it as long as I can. Like
Okay.
right now it's a career for me, and it's definitely like I've been granted a lot of opportunities from it. So as long as social media is still, you know, popular and all of that, I'm going to do it, but you never know when social media is going to come to an end. So
Right.
it's good to have a degree and a backup plan.
Right. So, what is the most valuable lesson you have learned from social media so far?
I think just doing what like you want to do. I think like oftentimes we're like very impacted by what other people are telling us we should do or we shouldn't do, and that's definitely been the hardest part for me. But ultimately, if it's a passion of mine, like I'm going to do it. And ever since I started to have that mindset, I've been able to do things I would have never even like dreamt of being able to do. So I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned.
That's awesome. So, what are some of the pros and cons of being a famous TikToker at a school like this?
The opportunities, definitely. I've been able to work with Penn State football, help out at Thon, so the opportunities have been really amazing, and I've definitely been able to like be in like a crazy places at crazy events, which has been cool. I mean, it definitely is hard being like having people know me and having people recognize me. I don't think I'll ever get used to it, and it can be like it just makes me feel weird because I'm not used to it at all. So that's definitely the biggest con, but I think just like I've met so many great friends and I've met so many people that do support me, and that's been like the best experience so far.
Okay, that's awesome. So, what are some of like the negative things that you get from social media, and how do you deal with that?
Honestly, I feel like I haven't had to deal with too many like negatives of social media. I think like the only thing is just having people like look at me differently sometimes because they like recognize me or whatever, but like for the most part it's been a really positive experience for me, so I've been lucky in that way. I know like a lot of people have had to deal with really, really bad things, so
Yeah.
I've been pretty fortunate in that way, and I feel like everyone at Penn State is really nice. So yeah, I haven't had to deal with too much of it.
That's great, yeah, because social media can be like either a good thing or a bad thing. It just
Right.
all depends. But that's great that you've had a good experience so far. So, what other things about social media, like what do you like about it? Like, what is your favorite part?
I think for me is just being able to like be a role model for younger girls, especially. I have a lot of like high school girls that follow me, or like middle school, or girls that are going into college, and I think being able to like tell them like it's okay, like everything's gonna work out for you. You don't have to be afraid. I know a lot of girls like they're like, can I have advice about middle school or high school, or like how do I deal with bullies? And being able to like be a positive light for them, and especially
Right.
for people that are going through things. And that's definitely like the most rewarding part of it, is having like a young girl or boy like
Right.
recognize me and
Yeah.
be like, you've impacted my life, and like I'm a fan of yours. Like it's so crazy. Like it happened to me at Thon with some of the Thon families, and I just started crying. I was like, oh my gosh,
Right.
this is amazing.
That is amazing to be such an amazing like role model for younger children. Like I feel like that's such a cool thing to be able to do and like give them advice. Like that's just awesome. Also, how did you get started with social media? What like made you want to get into it?
I got into it at a pretty young age, but I didn't get into it with the intention of like becoming like a social media creator. I was posting on Musical.ly actually, like with my friends, and we were all doing it, and this was in like 7th grade. And then I started to have like these viral videos. I would get, featured, I think it was called on Musical.ly. And so I kept getting featured and I was like, what is happening? And then I started to gain a small following, and that's when I was like, okay, like this is possible. And then I just started working. And since then, like, I've just been putting everything in it. I did take like a break at one point because it was really hard, like freshman year of high school, being like the TikTok girl, or I think it was Musical.ly at the time.
I could
was
imagine.
Like, oh gosh. But since then, I've just been like putting everything in it, and it's a huge time commitment, but it's been worth it, I would say.
That's great. I'm so glad that you've had a great experience so far, and I'm so glad that I got to talk to you. So Katie, thank you for sharing your experience with social media with us today. Make sure to give Katie a follow on all social media platforms. For Nittany Talk, I'm Anna Adams.
Hey Penn State, welcome back to Nittany Talk. With modern technology, it's easier than ever to communicate with each other. We live in an era where we can interact with people halfway across the world within less than a few seconds. Of course, our preferred method of interaction all depends on which social media app we own. Some people like Snapchat, others Instagram. Today we are going to have a debate over our favorite social media platforms. Now guys, I know social media plays a huge role in our lives. As we were mentioned earlier in the Kanye segment, we're constantly fixated on influencers and the way they impact our lives and how they make us feel. But in a way, it's kind of like a two-way relationship, you know? You can always have fans of, say, Kanye or even our recent guests constantly change the direction of how they act as people.
Right.
What do you think about the role of social media just changes the way we behave?
I think social media today is very overused, but I mean, it's overused for the right reasons. You know, like we use social media to see what people are up to see what's good, what's new. I know my screen usage is very high. You know,
Same.
I see myself on social media at least 2 hours every day. And I think it's because I like seeing updates on people's lives. But then there's also this factor that sometimes it's fake, you know, fake posts, you know, not everything we see is real. And, you know, that's another big idea when social media comes into play.
Right. Yeah, I think we get so stuck on seeing other people's lives, and we forget that everything that everyone posts is their best version. They're not going to post themselves at their lowest.
Right.
And so for us to constantly compare ourselves to people at their best moments on social media does take a toll on us. But like you were saying, it is a two-way street, because I know that I want to post my best self. So I'm constantly thinking about what I post on social media.
That's true, and that's why I think I love Instagram so much. To me, it's like a live photo album. You're constantly like sharing the best moments of your lives, and you look back on it with a smile.
Right, because now all of a sudden you have all these photos from your past time, and you can just look through it just like that, all on one platform.
That's one thing that Snapchat does really well, saving memories and stuff like that. Because whenever I record on Snapchat, they always like, hey, like this is what happened exactly a year ago. I look back on that, I'm like, wow, that's really cool. And it's nice to have like kind of that, like you said, that digital photo album where you can look back on people that you guys have grown apart, or maybe you guys are still together and you look back like, yo, that was really a long time ago. So that's one thing that I appreciate specifically about Snapchat, but more so about most social media. You can use it as like kind of a time capsule of sorts.
Absolutely. And you see that with all sorts of different social media, you know. Not all media accounts really last forever. You look at website platforms like MySpace,
Right.
or say old AOL online chat systems, you know. Those have gone by the wayside, but they're part of an era of time, you know. They're different generations. That's the way they communicate with each other.
Right. I think social media is continuously evolving. For example, like you look at Twitter, and it used to be more about celebrities being on that platform and interacting with their fans. But now that more people are using it, you can see so much more different content in it. You see news. That's a big thing that I've noticed, how we take our news. It's through social media now, and it's using like small videos because our attention spans are so small now.
Right, and these apps are filtering in what we want to see. Like TikTok, I love TikTok, and I think I like it so much because that For You page is now videos that I am interested in.
That's true. I mean, going back to news segments, I know I found out about the whole Ukraine-Russian debacle through an Instagram meme account. Like, doesn't that say something about the way we receive our information? Do you
Yeah.
think it's slowly replacing traditional platforms like newspapers, broadcast televisions?
I think it slowly is, and I think eventually they're going to have to adapt. I know that some news channels honestly like have social media interns who run their accounts and whatnot, but I think ultimately the traditional news stations are going to be there, but at the same time, like, they're going to have to adapt to social media.
Absolutely, it's in constant evolution, like all sorts of technology. Who would have thought that 20 years ago we'd be so connected through video chatting services like Skype or Zoom, especially with something as unprecedented as the COVID-19 pandemic? You know, social media has made us much more efficient with our work supply and being able to connect. Well, that concludes our debate for today. Thanks for tuning into our show. For Nittany Talk, I'm Lucas Hydock. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.